Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello everyone. Happy Monday. Welcome back to the Global Sports Podcast Network. And welcome back to Daily Wolves. We are off the back of a 2-2 draw at the weekend, which feels like a really weird thing to say. I'm your host today, Nathan, and I'm joined by Will. Will, how are we feeling? How are we feeling?
I mean, it's nice to be sat down recording of a weekend after, not losing at least, so it makes for a pleasant change.
It does. And the draw on Saturday means that we are climbing up the table. We are now off bottom spot, which is a good feeling. I'd like to get your overall thoughts first of all on the game, how you felt it went, and the general feeling.
Well, in a weird way. Now I don't mean to bring us down already, but I can't help but feel as though in the bigger picture, I mean, it's great, first of all, last minute equaliser, that's always great.
Yeah.
So you enjoy that, of course. But in the bigger picture, I can't help but feel as though it might potentially prolong our suffering in the long run in terms of, I mean, secured O'Neill's job for a couple of more weeks, hasn't it? Which I do understand, and, credit where credit's due. But, I mean, the first half was woeful. I feel like...
It was.
I'll put it this way. For our equaliser that we scored, and again, all praise to Tommy Doyle for making the interception that he made. But realistically, I see that as just a poor pass. Like, I don't know if you saw Alan Shearer's comments on it on Match of the Day, but it was do anything but what you did there from a Brighton point of view.
Yeah.
And I just think, if that pass goes half a yard either way, then we're sat here talking again about the dismal performance and the doom and gloom of, Wolves under O'Neill so far this season. To sum up my thoughts, I think obviously it's great and gives us something to celebrate. But I don't, as far as I'm concerned, all I'm sort of, thinking about is where do we go from here? Are we able to kick on, or is it just, more of what we've seen already?
I kind of echo that thought. I think in that situation, in a 4-on-1, and you've got, seconds left on the clock, essentially.
Yeah.
You wouldn't blame the bloke from going to the corner flag, but I guess in a 4-on-1, you want to take that initiative to try and get a third goal. But at the same time, I think we are due a little bit of luck. I think we have been unlucky at times. I mean, we have deserving of being probably bottom of the league with some of our performances, but there are elements, especially thinking back to that kind of City at home, last minute VAR story and all of that. So, and I was speaking to my dad about it today, and he was saying, like, you kind of make your own luck as well. And maybe that Tommy Doyle in that moment, maybe it's a massive turning moment for the group and for kind of mentality behind the camp. And I guess I know where you're going with it, in a way that we don't want to be covering up the cracks with this, because it's not, a 2-2 draw away to Brighton after being 2-0 down, and we didn't threat at all in that first half. It didn't feel, apart from Tommy Doyle's early chance, which, if you watch the highlights back, it looks like it was a really, really even game, but I don't think it might not be super reflective of how it actually went down. I guess a little question for you is, who were you most impressed by? I know we just mentioned Tommy Doyle there, and out of sort of the BBC ratings, they rated Dawson, Cunha, and Tommy Doyle up there as the best performers. Would you kind of agree with them on that one?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's been a lot of calls lately for Tommy Doyle to get more game time and, bring that creativity. And of course, he did get the assist for the equaliser. But I mean, Cunha and Dawson, you sort of, you know what you're going to get with them. I think they are just quality players. But yeah, so it's especially nice to see Doyle be given that chance and take it well. But I just want to loop back to something that you mentioned there when you said covering the cracks. And I think that sums it up perfectly. Like you said, you made your own look. Doyle made that look. But yeah, in the long run, how good of a performance it was when you look at it, well, it wasn't really. And, are we able to kick on? Like you said, hopefully that Doyle interception and through ball to Cunha can be a real sort of, pivot and turning point for the squad. But I would like to mention as well, I think I actually think Sarabia did nicely when he came on, and he's someone who I've been wanting to see more of. I can understand, people and fans who aren't 100% sold on him potentially, but I just think it's as simple as you don't get that many caps for Spain and play for Seville and PSG if you're not half decent.
No, definitely.
So yeah, definitely. I think he brought that bit of quality alongside the likes of Doyle. I think they gave the sort of creativity that we've been lacking for so long now.
Yeah, I think I would probably be one of those that doubts Sarabia a little bit. I do think that there are certain games where he kind of gets the game kind of passes him by. He's not got the physical attributes of most Premier League players, and so sometimes it does kind of impact his game negatively. But then I think there's games like the one against Brighton at the weekend where he's perfect to come on at that kind of halfway point to have an impact on the game, because he's had that time to kind of see and assess maybe where things are, because we know how much of a, it's his footballing brain and technical ability is what he's there for, really. And absolutely, that technical ability in itself is worth, the Spain caps that he's got. So I think he definitely can be a point of difference. But I do think you've got to use him in the right type of game.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I don't disagree with that. And it's one of those, I think he's one of those players that you hear of sort of a luxury player.
Yeah.
And I can understand people questioning him. I don't know if it's his character or just his profile of player, like you mentioned, with the lack of physicality and so on. It's not necessarily always what you need when you're in our position, when you're down that bottom end of the table. But, as we've mentioned, it's not bad to have that quality to be able to bring on from the bench. And speaking of substitutions, we saw Lamina go off at half time, which I think was fully justified.
Yeah.
He's going through a poor run of form, and that upsets me personally just because I love him.
Yes.
I absolutely love him. But I think it was, like I said, it was O'Neill was well within his rights, and it's nice to see O'Neill being proactive in that respect.
Yeah.
And it also, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like I'm making this up now that I'm saying it, even though I'm not. But Nelson got the captain's armband.
Yes, I believe he did. Yeah.
And I like it. I
like it as well. I've been on a few different sort of Twitter feeds recently, and a lot of it has been talking about Nelson Semedo's sort of one-on-one defensive abilities. I think he's been absolutely superb defensively at times this season, and it's a shame that we've been so poor as a whole defensively, because it sort of impacts how he's seen, lets him down a little bit. And I think that's a bit of a theme throughout the past few years, really. Maybe he'd have more of a stamp on that Portugal squad if we were a little bit more solid defensively as a unit as well. Because I can't remember seeing many games where he's had a really poor full 90 minutes at all.
No,
I mean, I think he's been super consistent.
Yeah, I think the only times where he lets himself down and is potentially a bit weaker defensively is when there's that ball and he's got a man behind him at the back post.
Yeah,
I do find he has a tendency to freeze in those moments or not quite do enough to stop a goal. And you know, I think, and rightly so, people will criticise him for that. But if you look at, like you said, 90 minutes consistent performance. I mean, he was our player of the season last season, which for a fullback is some going. But that just goes to show the consistency and high level of performance from him. And you know, I think it's always nice when you see that and you see it rewarded and recognised as well. So yeah.
No, 100%. I think we both agree he's a winner. And I wanted to let you know that here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform, and Zencastr, just like Semedo, came out the clear winner. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs, it's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more. On our sort of defensive topic, talking about Semedo, Gary O'Neill started the game with a back five. It's something that we've called for, and I think. How do we feel about that back five? Because he's come out and said, you know, he's obviously changed to a back four at half time, and things have kind of moved around there, and we've looked a little bit better going forwards in the second half. How do we feel about the whole back five, back four conversation? Is it something that,
I think, credit where credit's due to an extent. But this is a perfect time where I'd like to give the reminder of, if that ball that Doyle intercepted was half a yard either side, I don't think this is something we'd be debating at all. So for me, it's no, to quote O'Neill, there's no headache going forward. It's back five and a back five all the way. It's good if you have that flexibility to change in a game, then that's brilliant, you know, to adapt and, well, do your job as a manager and manage the team to play in response to how the opposition are, then that's brilliant. Of course, I'm all for that. But I think, you know, week in, week out, you expect to see the team sheet as a back five consistently. I think, Totti, Bueno, Dawson, they'll sort you out. They'll you know, in the same way that your quality players like Cunha going forwards will win you these points, or not single-handedly, but, you know, have these key moments. I think the defenders will also do the same in a three with the support that they'll have around each other. I think.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's almost also for the support to the fullbacks as well. I think in the crossover episode before the game from the weekend, that Brighton fans were identifying our fullbacks as sort of getting inside them as being the key to the game, and I think that's one aspect of it that we sort of managed okay in the first half with that five at the back. I wanted to touch quickly on the actual Brighton goals. I know that we have a slightly more positive tone to our voices today, given that we got a point at the weekend. But I thought it was a real shame in the way that the manner in which we conceded that first goal. I mean, it's coming from Sarr retrieving the ball and the distribution just not being good enough. And I know personally, I was hoping to see Sarr have another sort of stellar performance similar to the City game, but that. Again, it's just frustration. Our keepers, in my mind, I don't think their distribution for either Sam Johnston or Jose Sarr is very good, really. And so, frustrating goal to concede that. I don't know what your thoughts are on that Welbeck goal.
Well, I just think, you know, the reason Sarr looked so good against Man City was because he's an excellent shot stopper. So you have it like the game almost plays out at times like a training session.
Yeah.
When with that deep, and it's just shots being fired at him. He'll save them all day. But also, crucially, there was no playing out from the back, so you didn't really have to worry about your keeper's distribution. Essentially, it was, ping it as far away as you can towards the big man up front or out wide to the wing backs to, knock it on.
Yeah.
That simple. And again, I know we spoke about this after the City game, but by that logic, you play Sarr every day, I think. If you're taking away the passing out from the back and you're just focusing purely on the shot stopping, then it was disappointing to see. I did really feel for him. I really hope that doesn't mean that as soon as Johnson's fit, Sarr gets dropped
straight back in. Yeah,
I can see that happening now, and I don't know.
I don't know where the coaching staff are sitting with Sarr, really, because we don't know if he actually wanted to leave 100% in the summer. There's not been too much recent talk about him being sort of unhappy, and obviously he's had these couple of games in the team now. So it'd be nice. I think it's always good to have healthy competition within a squad, and having two keepers that are Premier League quality goalkeepers competing. Not many Premier League teams actually have the luxury of that, especially not sort of towards our end of the table at the minute. So it could come in really, really helpful to have that depth there, because that depth is something that we're, obviously lacking in defensive areas as it is. So potentially that could be a positive. I wanted we've spoken in recent weeks a little bit about Strand Larsen and his overall performances. What are your thoughts on his performance at the weekend? I personally thought that he put himself about again fairly well, and I'm sort of sounding like a broken record here, but I really like the way that he brings Cunha into the game. I like the way that he's not just a big lump up top, and he's got a lot more to his game. What are your thoughts on that, Will?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, he seems to sort of epitomise the idea of a modern day number 9. It's not as simple as, I mentioned that a moment ago, Sarr just booting it up to the big man. Although he can do that and it's effective. Off the ball and, actually with the ball at his feet as well. The sort of, I like the way he thinks when playing, I think that's a big factor of his game, and I loved his celebrations for the equaliser. He's one of those where he just gets it. He gets it. So I think if he's happy, we're happy. I think that's how it's going.
Yeah, I think he's got real potential to kick on, and if we look at the opposing team from the weekend, like Danny Welbeck and how he's progressed throughout his career into this all-round centre forward. He's obviously got that experience now where he doesn't rely so much on his physicality and stuff. We're hoping that Strand Larsen can develop in the same manner, because he has all the attributes, and he's obviously got age on his side as well to kind of kick on. So I mean, we're now over the first initial difficult group of fixtures, and we're going into. I don't want to touch too much on the future fixtures. I'm sure we'll cover a lot of that in the coming episodes in the lead up to Crystal Palace at home. But do we? Is it kind of a sigh of relief now that we're done with those? Or are we still a little bit on edge?
Yeah, I'd say I'm still a little bit on edge, purely just because we still only have 2 points. So as much as we're over that hill, it couldn't really have gone any worse for us. We scraped points against Brighton and Forest. That's it, and that's really that's still really worrying. I can't, and I really don't mean to bring like a downer on it all, because again, a last minute equaliser, no matter what the sort of situation is at the club, that's excellent. But I'm still worried for us, and I'm sort of, I don't want to go into Palace at home next Saturday, see that Johnson's starting, see that we're going to a back four, just some nonsense. Do you know what I mean? Like we're not, these next games are bigger than big. They are massive. absolutely massive. And I would like to say it's make or break time for O'Neill, but even if we scrape some results, my thoughts. I just think that whilst we've got him and Fosun in charge, we ain't going anywhere.
Yeah.
And that's sort of that. I think that's the overriding feeling at the club, or at least amongst the fans, especially when you look back a few years ago.
I think
it's the ceiling is just so much lower.
Yes.
So I can't get too excited no matter what's going on. I think that's how I feel.
And it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because obviously we want to see Wolves go and get 3 points week in, week out, don't we? But it's like whatever we fluke now, at what cost almost? It's like what is it that needs to happen for things to change? And the fear is that we just kind of become this club that just flirts with relegation. I mean, obviously we've got this season to deal with now, and we don't want to be thinking too far ahead. But we really don't want to be in a position where we're just sort of glad to be getting a point away at Brighton.
Exactly.
That's the reality of the position that we're in now, is that we're just scraping any points that we can get. But if we remember sort of what we built up to in 2019, 2020, where you're talking about Europa League and you're talking about this sort of long-term sustainability and a top 10 position in the Prem, and then now we're looking at just trying to stay in the league. It's a real shame that this is the situation that we're in. But I digress a little bit, and before we do continue on that track, I just wanted to let you know, Will, and the listeners today, that this podcast is part of the Global Sports Podcast Network, the only network bringing you exclusive daily news and views on your Premier League team, the Premier League, women's football and fantasy football. A unique listening experience that puts fans first, bringing you the very latest breaking news from your team. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and make us your first listen every day. Global Sports Podcast Network, every club, every day.
Every day.
Every day indeed. And go on. Sorry.
No, well, it was just, we touched briefly on the upcoming fixtures there. But I just want to mention a tweet that I saw from another Wolves fan. And you're nodding as though you may know where I'm going with this. I'm not sure. Yeah. I'm not sure. We'll see. But and this was said, I think, during halftime of the game, and I put a reminder out that just because we got this last minute equaliser, this hasn't changed, and it's the fact that we've still only had one win in 7 months and 19 games. In the Premier League win, and that was against Luton, who are now relegated. But the fact that we're on a bit of a high doesn't change that, and I think that's my overall feeling with the fixtures coming up. It's like, it's going to be great to get a few points, hopefully, and see us climb out of the relegation spot, and hopefully by the end of the season, we'll finish outside of it. Hopefully. I think we should. But
the facts are damning. The facts are really scary as a Wolves fan at the minute. To look at how we're doing on paper, and have to stretch back that far for a win, and we can't. Okay, last season we were struggling with squad depth towards the end of the season, and there were certain things that you can kind of go, okay, we can excuse the lads for the results, we can excuse Gary O'Neill at that point, and we've had a full pre-season now, and this season hasn't improved too well. But what I kind of wanted to touch on a little bit is, I know your thoughts on Gary O'Neill, and I know that we kind of both share the same thoughts, that the ceiling is fairly low with him in charge and potentially Fosun above him. But do we feel as though he is changing things for the better in games now? And I know it's taken him a while this season, but I'm seeing a little bit more cutthroat action that I wish we saw from the start, and I wish this was something that happened a little earlier on in the season. But do we think that we're maybe seeing a little switch in mentality that's been forced due to the fact that obviously we've got no wins so far this season? do we think that it's changing positively in that sense, his decision making?
Yeah, I think it is, but I don't think it's for the right reasons. As in, it's been forced because, well, you've got no choice, Gary. You've got to change something, and it's not. Like you alluded to there, we've had a full preseason with him. I understand he wasn't fully backed in terms of we should have had another centre half, but there's still a lot of decisions made that he was quite happy with, and so on. That have cost us, and they're sort of again the Johnson and Sarr whole thing. Yeah, healthy competition, but I just don't like the way all of that was handled. And then, like you said, you'd like to have seen this change come earlier on in the season.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's cost us so much at this point, it's like, I don't know. I've just got such my mind's already made up sort of thing. Like, it's just, no matter what O'Neill does now, I just think the jury's out, in my opinion. Yeah. I won't be sold on, these tactical changes and, these sort of being seen as proactive and so on and so forth. It's like, it's good and it's positive because obviously it helps the team get results. But as I've mentioned a few times now, it's like, what for? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're like,
what the bigger picture?
Where's it? Yeah.
Actually, on the coaching staff front, a few weeks ago we got rid of our set piece, our junior set piece tactician, and one of the goals, our first goal at the Amex, came from one of our offensive corners, which I thought was quite it was an amusing thing to think about. That one of the decisions may have. Look, I know it's dropped to him for a bit of luck, but it's nice to see that we're causing a bit of mayhem. I like to think this is like a Mick Harvey style, in the box, sort of try and put it on the big lad and see what happens. I mean, Dawson has some sort of attempt at some acrobatic something or other, and then Aït-Nouri's there to slot it home, and Aït-Nouri seems to pop up with some of these goals quite regularly. So it was good to see. Sorry, that.
If you cast your mind back just on that point, Everton away under Lopetegui a few years ago, and Aït-Nouri popped up with one. I know that wasn't from a set piece, but just pops up with these little goals.
And that was a win. That would be great if we could have that again.
Yeah. But again, as I said, I mean, I think it just goes to show you how much it's just money for old rope. A sort of set piece coach. I'll give you an example. Today I was playing football. We had a free kick.
Here we go.
I just followed it in, and the keeper spilt it, and I got a lovely little weak foot finish. On
fantastic.
The turn. But in other words, I just scuffed it across the line because the keeper spilt it, and that same. That same notion of, like you said, it just sort of fell to Aït-Nouri and he managed to put it away. And it's just like, well, we've just been paying a bloke, goodness knows how much money for a couple of months to do effectively what was less effective than just putting it in the box and it fall into Aït-Nouri after our centre half has sort of had a go at it. It's just that simple, which I find mad.
Yeah. I think that's a pretty good way to leave the listeners today. To be honest, just with the notion that we have a top striker on our roster here at the Daily Wolves, and that Will even with his weak foot can finish off chances better than some of our strikers at the minute. So
you said that, not me.
I did. So I think that's a nice way to leave it. We'll of course be back later on throughout the week to talk a little bit about the upcoming game at home to Crystal Palace. But at the minute, it's goodbye from me, and we will catch you guys in the next episode.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.